Buongiorno a tutti, and thank you very much for joining us here. I've got the great pleasure to have Monika Moser, CEO of Campbell House Design. I've got Julian Girndt, who is the, just get that 100% right, he is the Director of Business Innovation at Deutsche Hospitality, and of course Christian Walter, who's the Joint Managing Director of PKF Hospitality Group. So benvenuti a tutti, as they say, in the region where we are being screened. Nice to have you with us, and we're trying in 30 minutes, one more we don't have, unfortunately. We're trying to touch on a subject which would probably keep us busy for a few years, months. It's innovation in hotels. What has changed? What is to change? What is innovation? Innovation was once defined by Barack Obama as the creation of something that improves the way we live our lives. And that's really what we want to look at now, how we have done that in hotels. And I may seem a little bit, what's the right word, challenging, and I'm going to ask a few questions and try to rattle some cages to see whether we have done anything. A hotel provides a bed and a series of other services, as we all know, and that depends on the specialization that the hotel has or specification. But how has the sector improved, innovated over the past, say, 20 years? And maybe we just throw a few things out and get the discussion going. Monika, you've been in the industry certainly not 20 years. You're way too young to have been there for 20 years, but just under. Tell us where you feel, and you've got the experience from a hotelier's perspective, but you also been involved with hotel design, and that is really where I would like our discussion to somehow go. But let's start with you.
Well, I love the quote that you mentioned from Obama, because it really brings it to the point, improving the way our lives are, and that's brings me to being the devil's advocate in the hotel industry. How did we improve our lives in being in hotels? If take out the technology that maybe has given us a little bit more of flexibility and comfort in our stays, there is not much, and I would say the basics of hospitality remains service. So we need to maybe concentrate on how did we improve service? What innovation is out there that improved service in the hospitality?
Mm-hmm. Julian, what would you say? You've been in the industry definitely for a while. I went through your CV. We chatted last week. So you certainly have seen some changes.
Yeah, and I have to agree totally with Monika. When you arrive as a guest in a hotel, not many things really have changed. From my perspective, being in a commercial role for so long, I would say 80% of the innovation happened behind the in the background. So many things improved the life of a hotelier, while the basic services still are the same. However, to complement with Monika, I would say one of the big changes in the last 20 years is that service is not really the big call anymore, since we see the rise of the economy and mid-scale brands coming up, where really service does not matter that much, but more price and e-services and so on. So it's not only the service, it's also the quality of the stay that is not affected by service sometimes.
I'd like to come back to that one in a minute, but Christian, when I put this panel together after Giorgio asked me, I said, let's bring Christian in because you're a bit of the, what's right, I don't want to say disruptor is maybe too much, but the free thinker, the one that sort of challenges the status quo, and you've done that at round tables, one that we hosted recently as well. So what is it from your side? What do you think has changed?
First of all, buongiorno to Milano, and I'm very sorry that we cannot be with you live in the flesh on site. But Nils and we actually hosted a sister event yesterday here in Dubai, the 196 Plus Roundtable. What has changed over the last 20 years? Maybe if we go back further, I would say what has definitely happened is that we have moved on from trying to avoid bad surprises in hotels to providing pleasant and positive surprises. I think we have moved into an experience industry. So our job is very much about providing experiences. Also, I see that hotels, thank God, have become again social hubs. That's something that is very dear to my heart. In the center of that, I think, is the rediscovery of the food and beverage as an important function of hospitality. So we're going back to hotels to meet, maybe not during the last couple of months. That was difficult, but that's for me probably the major change in the last 1 to 2 decades. We've moved much more into lifestyle, whatever that means, much more focus on design, interior design. Monika, I hope you agree. I think we've become much more diverse, also in terms of product, in terms of brands, in terms of concepts that are out there. There's good quality from low budget hotels to luxury hotels. I think that's also something that changed. You can really have good value for money today, and that's amazing. It's become much more transparent. There are all those reviews on the internet, whether you like it or not, but I think in the end it's a good thing. We've become much more transparent and thus much more consumer orientated as an industry. So those are some of the observations over the last 20 years.
Thank you, Christian. But they're all, for me, they're great and they're important. But there isn't really a change. I walk into a hotel and we moved from one hotel today in Dubai to another one, and I look around and say, yeah, nice. But is there anything that has really changed? And some people say, but what do you want to change? It's a bedroom, you know, there's a bed and there's a bathroom and whatever, but what do you want to change? Yet we talk about recently about the demands that have changed of guests. We work remotely, and all of us who, or not all of us, can afford to have a suite where I have an office space maybe, and the bedroom is another room. So how are we making it more comfortable for those digital nomads or just hotel consultants, for all I care, who move from one city to another, and looking for a desk where you can actually work on? Again, Monika, with you to start. If you had, and again, you've been a hotelier and now you're on the design side of things, running a fairly big practice there. If you had your way, would you change something, or would you say, I'll just put another nice flower arrangement here and change the curtains a little bit and everything is fine?
Well, that would be an insult for the designers, I guess, but interior design... I agree with Christian. Interior design has become more important, and thank God we are going away from the standardized cubicles and hotels that were very simple in the past, to something that is more adapted to everybody's needs, and this different type of hotels coming up. What maybe I see as a difference is, and you touched on the remote work and the need to gather together, is in interior design we tend to integrate all outlets in one, so open the spaces and don't have cut outlets anymore. Like the restaurant is open only from this time to that time, and you can't have a drink in the middle of the day because the restaurant is closed in the lobby, for example. So, but again, it goes back to service. And I think interior design facilitates, or has been facilitating, this movement, this innovation in the past, in creating solutions that would allow service to be more flexible, much more maybe open-minded, much more adapted to the client's needs, the needs of the clients from today. And that goes to this flexibility as well in the new way of working. Maybe travelers want to have their hotel as a new office space in the future.
Right. Julian.
Yeah, flexibility is definitely the key word here, and we are also looking as a hotel operator. Of course, we are looking into long-term solutions, right? So we, if we operate hotels, they have a longer lifespan. So we need to anticipate also what's not only what is, let's say, what is the status as of now, but what could be the status tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So in this case, I would say this has really changed within the past years, that all hotel operators have become as an entity more flexible. We are learning a lot from our Asian shareholder, Huazhu, one of the biggest Chinese hotel groups, who has a life cycle of 5 to 8 years for their design, while we operate normally in the past operated with much longer lifespan. So this is something that we are really looking into, because the trend for working in a hotel is probably now the state of the art, but could be tomorrow. It could change really quick. We have seen this during the last 2 years, that things changed within weeks. So we need to be flexible, and I would compliment here with Monika again to say, yes, this is definitely one of the key requirements for us.
Christian, just quickly before we then move on to the next point, because I want to look at implementation, because at the moment we were talking, yeah, things have changed, but where have they physically changed? I agree with you, Monika, that many lobbies have changed, and restaurants pulling into the lobby and whatever. And there's one big old, and no disrespect to old, but old established and well-established brand, Sheraton. They have looked at their lobby concept over the last couple of years. They've changed it altogether, where some people said, will Sheraton even be relevant? And they said, yes, we are relevant. We've been around for, I don't know, 60 years probably, if not longer. And they looked at changing that. But I'd like to touch just now after Christian on where we have implemented certain things and how we can still implement it and what's in the pipeline. But Christian, in the meantime, what are your thoughts on the
innovation? It's such a big word, and I think we're maybe too critical. I reflected upon that a little bit in preparing for this panel. I think if we mention the word innovation, we're very much looking for some sort of technological product kind of innovation, and maybe that's not necessarily for us. Yeah, putting a flat screen TV instead of the old TV into a hotel room, that's for me not really innovation. And before we discuss innovation, I think sometimes we have to refocus on the essentials of hospitality. That's something I do whenever I stay at some hotel. For me, the essential is still providing a good night's sleep. And before we think about all sorts of crazy digital gadgets, let's go back to that and be very self-critical. And I think that most operators, most hotel groups, unfortunately, don't really think about whether they actually provide a good night's sleep, you know, and that has something to do with noise, that has something to do with vibrations, tactile things, that has something to do with light, and I think that's really something we also have to put into the focus again before we think about innovation. But if you want to discuss innovation, I think for me, innovation in hospitality is very much in new concepts that are popping up. To mention a few that I think are innovative concepts, Soku, for example, for me is something that is really new and innovative. The student hotel, I think, is something amazing, a super interesting concept, someone who's really challenging the industry. So I think innovation is really also in terms of how we interact, challenging the way we live, the way we work, the way we travel, you know, providing new hybrid forms of social interaction. That's innovation for me. Also innovation in terms of destinations, not always thinking about the same destinations. Think about new destinations, untapped into destinations, and what kind of concepts, products we need there. So that's for me the kind of innovation I want to see. Of course, there's also technological innovation, but that's for me not the really exciting thing, to be honest.
Look, I want to challenge that too. It's exciting, it's not exciting, but when technology, when digitalization came up, when we said people can reserve their own room remotely, they can check in, they can check out. I don't know what the latest stats are in terms of the utilization of that, but what I'm missing is, and again, just judging by the places that I've stayed at over the last couple of years now, which, you know, not many in the last 18 months, of course, but before that, I look at it and saying, have we really utilized it as hotels, as hoteliers? Have we utilized it enough? Because Julian, you were saying service doesn't matter or take sort of a second step back. I would disagree with that with respect. Where I'm saying, you know, if I have got these apps, if I've got these facilities to do, shouldn't it give me as an hotelier an opportunity to utilize my time more service oriented and use that kind of innovation in order to free up people to be what most of us who started in this industry, myself 40 odd years ago, to be hosts, to be you know, to be hospitable, no matter whether you're in a luxury product or whether you're in a backpacking, because in backpacking also need to tell somebody they want to go to a particular site and where they should go and curate their experiences as such.
Yeah.
Are we doing enough there, and how are we counteracting that? To just take a little bit of a sidestep before we get back into the actual hardware that I'm kind of interested in as well.
Yeah. Well, Nils, probably just to catch up with this, I didn't mean that service is not necessary at all. It's just that the segments where service doesn't play the primary role are decreasing. If you look at the number of hotels that are being built at the moment, yeah, and Christian, you mentioned these projects where really, let's say, the staffing situation in a hotel is not as high as in a 5-star hotel or even in a 4-star hotel. This is the situation that we are facing. And again, from an operator view, one of the biggest challenges is the staffing problem that we are facing within the next 5-10 years. And this is something we have to, where technology certainly can help us. And I do agree, we have to see where do we make the difference in terms of service. Yeah, doing a check-in is not the service that we need to provide, but giving a good restaurant advice, yeah, or I don't know, good flower arrangement or whatever. That is
cool
the kind of service people. Yeah, that is the kind of service people are looking into. It's not the basics. It's not the technical stuff that can be done by apps. So we are looking for completely new people there as well. People who have more have not the technological side or the expertise how to check in or how the wine is served correctly, but probably be more authentic and yeah, have the guest gene within them. So
yeah. Coming back to the and I'm not going to let go of that one before we close. Changes in the bedroom. Are we doing changes in the bedroom? Are we looking at changes in the bedroom? Again, coming back to the working in a room to have more space available to me. I looked at some concepts, and you're right, Christian. Zoku, for example, is a fantastic concept, but that requires different heights and everything else, and it's purpose built. But what can we change in a bedroom?
Also, Deutsche Hospitality has wonderful concepts, by the way. Just want to.
Pardon?
Also, Deutsche Hospitality has wonderful concepts, by the way.
But everybody, many companies have it, so it's yeah.
Of course. But looking at the basic layout, it has not, in most places, hasn't changed. I looked at the concept the other day where somebody, and it was, I think, a small guest house or whatever, where they had Murphy beds. You know, the beds that suddenly disappear in a cupboard, because even looking at this rather large room I've got the pleasure of staying in, you know, the bed occupies, like in any room, the most space. Do I have to look at it the whole day when I'm there? How do I change that? How do I make it different? Some people said, no, it's not practical. Well, why wouldn't a Murphy bed be practical, Monika?
It's a good question. I think flexibility goes back there again. Anything that isn't furniture that is flexible is good. Now, a Murphy bed, I remember them as very uncomfortable, so I wouldn't put them in the room, but that has changed maybe. In the rooms, we had seen in the past that technology, funny enough, while being present, are not visible anymore. So we are taking off the TVs. We are taking off sometimes telephones as well, because we all have our mobile device now. We see the trend of taking away of the desks, the bureau desks, to a more loungy area. You know, things like that have been in the past as well, taking away, well, that this is really interior design, taking away carpets and fabrics and these things because of the hygiene and the idea that it might be cleaner if you have a parquet or wooden floor. But this goes maybe back again to a specific concept creation on the innovations in terms of the style of the hotel. In general, I think innovation in this terms needs to be agile, needs to be able to change and adapt constantly, specifically in our world. You know, we have seen in the past year that anything changes all the time and that we cannot really foresee it. So the design, the hotel room, the hotel services need to be aware of that.
Julian, Deutsche, you mentioned something which stuck with me, which I think is very, very important, is the lifespan of your product, the lifespan of your hotel or your room design. And the less it is, the more chance you have to adapt it. But obviously, we're talking about major capex. How will you counteract, or how will you balance that act of saying we have to maybe relook at it sooner rather than later? How do you manage that? What are your plans there, or what is your strategy, if I could call it that? Also facing the owners that you're working with.
Well, this is currently in the development phase. We are looking into concepts that already have built in, like what Monika said, the flexibility to change. So let's say not from built-in furniture in specific woods that are not state of the art 5-10 years later. We saw the change that the concept is much more open. Again, it's not only the design. We also look into the let's say the smart room abilities of a room. Simplicity is the keyword here. Yeah, customers don't want to have 5 different apps and 10 different switches. So simplicity is something we are looking at. This is something technology is changing, which helps us as an operator to reduce costs. If you see, let's say, in case of lighting, if you change the light from traditional to modern lightings, you can also really work on this side. But we are looking currently at it, and we are looking also how to change rooms. It is definitely a question that has been or that have to be individually discussed with the owner side. So it's not easy, but it's one of the challenges if you want to persuade the developers and investors to choose your brand.
Yeah. Now, Monika, you working with, sorry, Christian, to bypass you on that one, but let me go straight to Monika again. Who, with the various brands that you work with the various individual hotels, who makes the decision, and where's the guest input? Where is the one who actually sleeps in our product? Where does he or she make his or her input to say, look, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. I mean, I love hearing that the telephone goes, because, you know, frankly, I mean, I was woken up the other night in a hotel where suddenly the phone, it didn't ring, but then I could have understood somebody misdialed. It was just making some noise. And, you know, I probably destroyed the plug because I just unplugged it. I didn't know where I was. I was fast asleep and it made a hell of a noise. The alarm clock is one of my nightmares, where I'm saying, why do people put alarm clocks in there? Everybody carries a cell phone or a watch or whatever. You know, don't put alarm clocks in there, because when they work, fantastic. But when housekeeping doesn't reset it to not ringing at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a nightmare. So is there a focus group? Do you work as designers? Do you work just with the clients that you serve, or do you speak to guests, or how does it work?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Nils, because I think we don't speak enough to our guests, right? The end user is a very seldom part of the conversation. How often did we have discussions with the owner of a project where he focused on having the design made on his personal beliefs? And there are not enough studies out there as well. You know, we are all coming up with these new things like clients don't want cleaning maids in the room anymore every day, or the sheets cleaned every day, things like that. But where is that stated? You know, at the end of the day, isn't that just to cover our costs better in the operations? I would like to see more studies on the real needs of our guests. Obviously, as a designer, you get inspirations from everywhere, but these are focused on design trends, on art, on inspirational situations. But at the end of the day, it's the owner or the owning company or the operator who decides in which directions we go with the design.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. Christian, what do we do as consultants? I mean, we work with brands, we work with owners. Where are we in this? Are we pushing hard enough to bring in the consumer to have a consumer forum, a guest forum, whatever. I don't want to call them consumers. We call them guests, don't we? That we speak to these guests and say what was right, what was wrong, what could we do better, and not look at it, because often I think when we ask for input, we just want to hear that the service was great, thank you very much, everything's good, wonderful, we walk away, and are almost afraid to get input, because then we have to do something with that input, don't we? Christian, what do we do as consultants? Do we push hard enough for that to be part of the forum?
Well, I think we're trying, aren't we? I think we're challenging our clients, and you know, our clients are mostly developers and investors. Not necessarily do I always have the solution, but at least I try to challenge and you know, open those old patterns, and it's very much experience driven, of course. All of us, we are traveling a lot, you know, and you see hundreds, if not thousands, of projects, and of course we try to pick something there and to pick something here, and then bring it into the next project as a learning, as a lesson learned. But I agree, we need to definitely listen much more to the guests, to the consumers. I've been asked myself so many times to fill in a questionnaire. You know, it just ends up, I don't know where, in the nirvana, and no one ever really analyzes this. That's very important. Also, I agree with Monika, we need to do more research. We probably need to be, as an industry, much more scientific. I think we're great as hosts, we're hoteliers, you know, that's what we love, food and drink and all that, but sometimes I think we also have to be a bit more scientific and really go into research. We're working at PKF at some projects, of course, but that's really where we need to put more focus, and where probably the hoteliers on site need to be supported by their head offices, by the headquarters of the various groups, with input for the further development. Also listen to the younger generations. We just had this discussion, Nils, the other day. Again, here, with all due respect, the four of us, you know, we're representative of certain generations, but none of us is, Monika maybe still representing the millennials. No, but that's a group we really need to listen to. Yeah? And so if we think about innovation and how to further develop our product, we need to look into the social demographic changes. We need to understand how the way those people live and work and travel in the future. We need to understand. We need to anticipate. We need to be courageous.
And if I may jump, Nils, I'm sorry. It was very interesting what Christian said, and the one thing I would add to that is, if we have all these researches, then we need to implement them too. I remember like 20 or 25 years ago, we had this research about female solo travelers. Maybe you remember that one, that because women traveled alone, you know, and it came up that we needed, as a receptionist, to attribute rooms nearby the elevator for security reasons. How often did I see that happen? Zero. So yeah, at one point,
it would be probably very easy. Yeah,
yes.
to implement. Yeah, true.
Yeah, look, I think, I mean, and I look at the time, unfortunately, we're running out of it, but it really shows, and I'm happy to see that we concur there. I think maybe we, in our own rights, we need to push a bit harder to have these groups of input and whatever, because it's not, I personally don't think it's right that, you know, just because I put in the money, I can decide what will go into my hotel, because I want it to be a success and I want it to be appealing to a particular group. So to listen to those people. Sample rooms is something, mock-up rooms is something that came up over, I don't know how many years, where we said, how much are they, and are they actually livable? Because often they're just, you know, bolted together somewhere, and no, the taps don't run and you can't have a shower in there. Where I'm saying, create a sample room that is a fully functional room, and create it as soon as possible, so that we can go in there, we can ask guests to go in there.
Spend a couple of nights at the mock-up room.
Absolutely.
Always ask our clients, have you slept yourself in that room? And they're gonna, no, why would I? Like, why would you not? I mean, it's so important. Yeah, spend a couple of nights there, and just experience it, because only then you will find out. Even for me, sometimes it's difficult. You know, they invite me into a mock-up room and they ask me, okay, now what is your feedback? And some things will just not appear to me. Yeah? If I spend there 24 hours, rest assured, I will find things.
Because the view when you're lying horizontally is a different one to when you're standing. It's a different one to when you're sitting and whatever. So, but look, I'm looking forward to more and more discussions around this, because we now finally got into something, and now we have to give back the microphone back to Giorgio. I thank you very much, Monika, Julian, Christian. Thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to re-engaging on that one, and hopefully one day we can look back and say, started with a half an hour in Milan or in Dubai, wherever we are right now, but for Milan, and look where we are. We now have got people who have got basins that are connected, TVs that are plugged in their sample rooms, and doors that actually close, and it's not standing in a hall somewhere, but it's actually in a working place. So thank you very much for that. Sorry we don't have enough time, but rather that way than carrying on and being bored. Thank you, and Giorgio, over to you.
Thank you.
Grazie. Arrivederci.
Ciao.